Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep into geopolitics today, specifically the BRICS Summit that just wrapped up in Kazan, Russia.
Yeah, this summit's got everyone talking.
You know, BRICS, maybe not a household name for everyone, but it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
And they're making waves. Big time.
These aren't just any countries. We're talking major economies, and they're really starting to challenge the way things have always been done on like the global scene.
The old world order dominated by the West.
Yeah, BRICS is looking to shake that up.
Exactly. And we've got a whole stack of news reports straight from this summit. We're talking potential conflict in West Asia, a new BRICS Plus format that's like expanding their reach,
Mm,
and even some whispers about moving away from the US dollar.
lots to unpack.
Where do we even begin? I mean, right off the bat, both Putin and Xi expressed deep concern about the situation in West Asia. Putin even used the phrase chain reaction.
Oh, yeah, I caught that too.
That's not something you say lightly.
Right.
He seems genuinely worried that this conflict could escalate out of control.
And have huge global consequences. Totally. And Xi's call for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the conflict in Lebanon just reinforces that shared anxiety. They're not just watching from the sidelines, they're actively trying to de-escalate things.
It's interesting, though, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got this backdrop of potential conflict, but then you also have this whole BRICS Plus format emerging.
Right. 36 countries and the UN Secretary General, all under the BRICS umbrella.
That's a big statement. Like they're creating this platform for countries that share similar concerns about the way things are going.
And it's not just talk. India's external affairs minister straight up said that BRICS represents a new geopolitical order.
Which raises the question, is this just rhetoric, or are we actually seeing a shift in global power?
Yeah, and here's where things get even more interesting. They're not just talking about politics, they're discussing things like alternative payment systems and trading in national currencies.
Imagine a world where the US dollar isn't the only game in town.
That's a huge shift. So we've got these potential global power plays brewing, a potential powder keg in West Asia, but it seems like BRICS itself might not be this totally unified front.
Yeah, there are definitely some cracks beneath the surface.
Our sources suggest that each member has their own priorities, their own agendas. It's like they're all pulling in slightly different directions.
Well, Putin was hyper-focused on West Asia. He barely even talked about anything else.
But she was all about global peace and development.
Right, and then you have India. Their external affairs minister kept bringing up international law and combating terrorism.
So how do these different perspectives affect BRICS' ability to actually get things done? It's like a car with 5 steering wheels.
That's a great way to put it.
Sure.
And it's a question we're going to keep exploring as we dive deeper into this summit. But before we do, there's one more thing we need to talk about.
Okay, hit me with it.
Remember how we talked about those simmering tensions within BRICS? Well, on the sidelines of this high-stakes summit, something totally unexpected happened.
What happened?
Modi and Xi Jinping met face-to-face.
Wait, hold on. Modi and Xi, together.
Yep, for the first time in 5 years.
But what about the border disputes? India and China have been at odds for years.
Right, which is why this meeting was such a surprise. Both leaders even publicly agreed that peace on the border should be a priority.
Okay, so what's the real story here? Is this some kind of strategic move, or could there be a genuine thaw in their relationship?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Either way, it adds another layer of complexity to this whole BRICS situation.
It's like a geopolitical puzzle. We've got potential conflict, a global power dynamic that's constantly in motion, and all these internal tensions within BRICS itself.
Buckle up. It's going to be a fascinating ride.
And it's a ride we're taking together. We'll be back with even more insights from the BRICS Summit in just a moment, so don't go anywhere.
You know that Modi-Xi meeting? It really highlights just how tricky this whole BRICS balancing act is.
How so?
Well, they're presenting this united front,
Yeah,
trying to project strength and reshape the world.
right.
But at the same time, they've got all these internal tensions and competing priorities.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to build a house of cards in a windstorm.
And then you throw the West Asia crisis into the mix.
Right. Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
It's a real make-or-break situation for them. If they manage to come together and actually help resolve this crisis,
That would be huge.
it would show the world that BRICS can step up and provide leadership, where maybe traditional powers haven't been able to.
Exactly. It would legitimize them as a major force.
But if they can't find common ground, and the situation in West Asia keeps getting worse.
It would expose all those internal divisions, right?
Exactly. They would look weak and ineffective on the world stage.
And you know what else adds to this whole dynamic? The fact that both the Palestinian president and the UN Secretary General were at that BRICS Plus meeting.
Especially since the UN Secretary General was just declared persona non grata by Israel.
That's a bold move by Russia.
Very bold. Inviting both of them.
Not sure.
It's a clear sign that they want to be a key player in mediating this West Asia crisis.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're here, we're listening, and we're ready to step up.
And that message might resonate really well with countries in the global south. Many of them have felt ignored or marginalized by the West for a long time.
So do you think BRICS can actually pull this off? Can they use this moment to solidify their position?
It's hard to say. You have to remember, BRICS isn't a single entity.
Right. It's 5 different countries.
Each with its own history, its own interests, its own ambitions.
They might share this common goal of challenging the West, but
the path to get there, that's going to be a long and winding road.
So it's like watching a game of chess unfold.
With very high stakes.
And each move could change the entire game.
Exactly. Right now, it feels like BRICS is making some bold moves. The question is, will they be able to outmaneuver their opponents and come out on top?
Or will they trip over their own feet and end up losing the game?
And don't forget about that Modi-Xi meeting. That adds a whole other layer of intrigue to this.
Yeah, I mean, was it just a symbolic gesture? Or could this actually be a turning point in relations between India and China?
It's tough to say for sure. It's definitely something we need to keep an eye on.
Because if those two giants can find a way to work together.
It could change the whole game.
So we've got this potential powder keg in West Asia, a global power dynamic that's shifting like crazy, and a complex web of relationships within BRICS itself.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
That's why we're here, to break it all down and make sense of it. In the final part of our deep dive, we're going to step back and look at the bigger picture.
What does this BRICS Summit mean for the future of global governance? What role can individual nations or even individuals like you play in shaping this new world order?
Stay tuned. Things are about to get even more interesting. All right, so we've been talking about this potential power shift, BRICS shaking things up on the global stage. But let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. What does all this mean for, the average person, you listening right now? How could these global shifts actually affect your everyday life?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Everyone should be thinking about this. Because if this global power balance really is shifting, it's going to create ripples that spread everywhere. Everything from trade and prices to the very way we think about global politics could be affected.
So no more cheap electronics, higher prices at the grocery store. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it's not quite that simple. But you're right to be thinking about those practical implications. The systems we've relied on for decades might not be as stable or predictable as they once were.
Okay, that sounds a little unnerving. But let's try to be optimistic here. What are some of the potential opportunities that might come out of this new world order? Could there be some upsides to all this change?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most exciting possibilities is a move toward a multipolar world.
Well, multipolar.
Yeah, where power isn't concentrated in just a few nations. Imagine a world where power is distributed more evenly across different regions, more cooperation and collaboration between countries.
So instead of one superpower calling all the shots, we might have multiple power centers working together to tackle global challenges.
Exactly. Things like climate change, poverty issues that affect everyone.
That actually sounds pretty good.
It also opens up new economic partnerships and trade routes. As BRICS gains influence, they'll invest in infrastructure and development in other parts of the world. New markets, new opportunities for businesses and entrepreneurs, maybe even in your own community.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Definitely not.
There's a chance this could lead to a more balanced world. New players with fresh ideas and approaches. But let's be real. Change on this scale is rarely smooth. What are some of the risks or downsides we should be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest risks is instability and conflict. As the old order breaks down and new power centers emerge.
There's bound to be some bumps in the road.
Exactly. Countries jostling for position, uncertainty and tension on the international stage.
Kind of like a high-stakes game of musical chairs with entire nations as the players.
That's a good way to put it. And the potential for miscalculation and things getting out of hand, it's very real. We're already seeing it play out in West Asia where the stakes are incredibly high.
That's a sobering thought. So what can we as individuals actually do to navigate this uncertain future? I mean, it feels like these global forces are so much bigger than any one person. What kind of impact can we actually have?
You're right. These are massive global trends. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. In fact, I think this is a time when individual voices and actions matter more than ever. Stay informed, engaged, and critical. Don't just passively accept the narratives being fed to you.
So be a savvy consumer of information. Question everything. Form your own opinions based on solid evidence.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of your own voice. Engage in conversations, share your perspectives, and hold your leaders accountable. Even small actions can create a ripple effect.
That's actually pretty encouraging. It's a reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in all of this.
Yeah.
We have a role to play in shaping the future, even if it's just raising awareness and having thoughtful discussions.
Precisely. And that leads me to the final thought I'll leave you with. If we really are entering a new era of global politics, what role do you want to play in shaping that era? What kind of world do you want to see? Those are questions worth thinking about, long after this deep dive is over.
That's a powerful note to end on. Thanks for taking us on this journey through the complexities of the BRICS Summit and all the changes happening in the world. It's been eye-opening, to say the least.
Well, my pleasure.
And to our listeners out there, keep asking those tough questions. The world needs your curiosity and your engagement now more than ever. Until next time, keep diving deep.